Life and death are the same. Both can have value and purpose.
Hear me, my son. I alone will tell you the truth. Death is the only punishment here.
Death is in our air, in sea, in earth. It can come for us at any moment. To show your true heart is to risk your life. Enemies are everywhere and friends nowhere. Life and death are the same. Both can have value and purpose. Remember, we live and we die. We control nothing beyond that. Going to blow it open.
Yabushige-sama, help me. Yabushige-sama! For the love of God, get over here and help me push this against the damn door!
Let it come.
For God's sake, help me push this against the door!
私はケチマリコ。
Mariko-sama, get away from the door.
こたびの石堂様の卑劣な襲撃に物申します。
Mariko, 殿もこちらへ。
自らの命を。
Mariko-sama!
And boom goes the dynamite. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the finale for the Shogun pregame shows, the final pregame show, as we get ready to dive into all things Shogun as we await the finale to upload on Hulu in just under 2 hours from now.
Amazing.
And after the especially after that explosive episode we got last week with that just insane ending, I know you guys are right there with me. We cannot wait to see how this final episode plays out. But welcome one, welcome all. Ravener, how you feeling, man?
Feeling good. I mean, I think the sentiment is pretty common throughout the fandom of Shogun. It is bittersweet. We've loved the ride, loved everything about it, and now we've come to the end. Can't wait to see the episode, but and actually it is a lot more sweet than bitter though for me, because I can appreciate the closing, the last page of a book, closing it and being done with it.
Yep.
and having something good. And I think that's where I'm at with this one. It's going to be sad that we don't have all the stuff involved with Shogun, like the shows and talking about it to do, in oncoming weeks. But yeah, man, this is a pretty awesome series altogether. Heard through the grapevine that there is a reveal at the end. I'm not even gonna speculate on what it might be. I don't know. Haven't really thought about that. Certainly wouldn't spoil it if I knew it. But there is some kind of a reveal. I'm hoping it's awesome. And cheers to Anna Sawai for actually allowing herself to be blown up in her final role in on TV. So good up on her. That's a dedication to the craft. So good job.
Indeed. Nothing shows dedication than letting yourself get blown into bits in your final scene. This is very true. And we were talking a little bit about her. She's definitely become a kind of a rising star. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing her in tons of stuff going forward after this. Her and many of the other actors and actresses on this show. I get the feeling this show has definitely boosted the profiles of many careers, and rightfully so. The acting's been freaking phenomenal. So
I agree.
expect to see these
Absolutely.
people around.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think really we were speaking before the show. Now, Anna Sawai has excellent English. Like, she was born in New Zealand. I'm not sure where else she spent her time, but her English is just like an American English. She uses, it's says like a lot in her interviews and stuff. But her English is perfect. I'm not sure about the mastery of English of the other actors, but
They're
she
mostly
actually.
Japanese based. Yeah.
Right, right, right. It was funny though, because she actually mentioned in one of the interviews that I saw with her that she felt constrained too about like the same way that I was very critical of how Mariko was so emotionally dead behind
Mm.
the eightfold fence. She said that she enjoyed the episode 9 because she finally got to say all the stuff that she wanted to say to everybody, everybody involved. Um, that she couldn't say when she was in such a constrained environment. She got to say to Ashido what she wanted to say, everybody. And it finally she got kind of like freed from the societal constraints, and she enjoyed that
Hmm.
part. So
Yeah, a little bit of freedom in her final moments to really get to put her point across. And I mean, in terms of valuable endings on the show, at least endings that are definitely going to go on and have a pretty big impact on the final episode, hers is up there. I mean, we saw the kind of spot she put Bushido and the rest of the council in, but with her coming into Osaka in episode 9, really put them in a tough position. Either they kill her on one hand and face an all-out revolt in the city, or they let her go and risk losing the rest of their hostages as well. So she really kind of went in there with a plan, and an effective one as well. So we're starting to see Toranaga's grand plan bear some fruit, if nothing else. So there's that. But now here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We are just under 2 hours away from the final episode of Shogun. And unfortunately, I know a lot of people have been asking if there is going to be a season 2. Unfortunately, it looks like there will not be. It looks like this will be the definitive finale. But I am already hearing some whispers, nothing confirmed, of course, but I am already hearing some whispers about them potentially adapting other James Clavell novels. And apparently, there is actually another Sengoku era story that is in production right now on the first Black Samurai, who wasn't really a samurai, but still earned a very high position in the court of Oda Nobunaga. And that story is currently getting adapted in movie form. But I am hearing that we might get another James Clavell novel adapted. It's just whispers now, but who knows? Who knows? And
oh
absolutely, Dark Gift Comics, if you want, drop your link away, my friend. Links are welcome here in the chat. And welcome everybody. Speaking of the chat, let's scroll up here and see who we have in here this fine evening, shall we? Let's see who we got. We got Elaine in the house. And again, welcome to everybody for joining us. Hopefully you guys are ready to have some fun Shogun talk over the next 2 hours or so as we wait for episode 10 to drop on Hulu. And let's see who is in the awesome chat. We got Elaine. What is up, Elaine? Good to see you. Welcome. We got Cam in the building. What is up, Cam? Always good to see Cam hanging out with us. Indeed. We got Michael Lockhart. What is up, Michael Lockhart? Hail, chat. Final night of Shogun. Part of me can't wait. Part of me is very sad. And absolutely, that is definitely the sentiment that I know at least Ravener and I are sharing as well. And I'm sure many of you in the chat are as well. Cannot wait to see how this phenomenal season ends, but going to be a bit bittersweet because once this episode airs, of course, we don't have any more Shogun to look forward to. So yes, can't wait to see the ending, but it's a bit bittersweet. We got Wolfspear in the house. What is up, Wolfspear? Good to see you as well, my friend. Welcome. It's been an amazing ride, says Michael Lockhart. It has. It's been an absolutely amazing ride covering Shogun here on the channel and getting to cover it and discuss it with all of you fine folks in the chat who have been hanging out with us every week talking Shogun. It's truly been an honor. And hopefully you guys decide to hang out and stick around as we dive headfirst into House of the Dragon next. And I think we are also going to be covering some original Shogun series as well. So we can kind of dive into the 80s miniseries, watch a little bit of that, and kind of compare and contrast that version to this version. So hopefully you guys come and hang out for that as well. I'm looking forward to watching the 80s version. I am looking forward to it. We got Brian in the house. What is up, Brian Days? Good to see you. Let's go. Great way to wrap up a crappy Monday. Well, that is awesome. If we can provide any modicum of distraction for anybody's crappy Monday, then that is a job well done in my book. So welcome, my friend. Welcome, welcome. We got Kai in the building. What is up, Kai? Good to see you as well, my friend. We got Percy Garcia. What is up to all you beautiful people out there? Hell yeah. What is up to all of the beautiful people in the chat? Beautiful indeed. Time for Father Martin, Anjin, Buntaro, bro hug moment. I don't know if we'll get that, but I get the feeling we're going to get some very interesting scenes concerning Buntaro, the Anjin, and Father Martin as well. So who knows?
Yeah, they gave us a lot of individual scenes. Almost, I mean, their trailers essentially may as well be just screenshots of just different different scenes, and essentially all it's telling you is who is in the next episode. You'll see Fuji, you'll see Anjin, you'll see Toranaga, Omi, and Yabushige. But other than that, man, they show stuff out of order. They show stuff with the dialogue that doesn't match the scene it's playing over. A lot of tricky stuff in their trailers. So it'll be neat to go to look through the trailer and see exactly who all is present. But it's going to be so difficult to speculate on what they're actually doing.
It is, because like you said, these trailers, not only do we only get a very tiny snippet of the following episode, but they always play these scenes out of order. Very rarely is it in sequential order when we see the trailer. And I actually just recently uploaded a video just about an hour before we went live, actually. And I broke down a little aspect of the trailer that we are going to dive into here live as well, where I do think we can at least almost guarantee a certain scene that will be happening in episode 10, but the trailer, throws you off. It doesn't show you in sequential order, but I do believe I put together the correct order of events for a certain scene that we're going to dive into. So that should be fun.
They have a heck of a lot to tie up in one episode. They've got 1 hour to wrap everything up. Interesting to see how they go about it.
Yeah, this episode, from what we're hearing, I believe Michael Lockhart looked it up last week, and I believe this episode is going to be around 77 minutes in runtime. So we got it's about 10 minutes longer than the usual episode, which is good. More time is always better. But at the end of the day, it's still only one episode, still only a little over an hour of actual screen time. So, yeah, they got a lot to wrap up in just one episode. So we'll see how they stick the landing. I have faith. I have all the confidence in the world that they are definitely going to stick the landing, and it will be a satisfying ending. I'm very much anticipating a satisfying ending, unlike Game of Thrones. But it's going to be interesting to see because, like you said, a lot of events to get through and only one final episode to get through them. So we're going to see. We are going to see, ladies and gentlemen, as Rooftop Korean is in the house as well. And my boy Snuggie. Oh, shit. I ain't seen that part yet. Oh, I am sorry, Snuggie. If you are not caught up, I apologize. But we will be discussing potential spoilers for everything that happened on Shogun up until episode 9. So be forewarned, my friends. We got Henry Bemis in the house. What is up, Henry Bemis? Good to see you. And I see the avocados are still present in the chat. Love to see the avocados. Doesn't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon. And I am totally cool with that. We got a new rating system here, Ravener, and it is all about the avocado.
Yeah, rest in peace. Rest in peace, Nagakado. We hardly knew ye.
Yep. And the Fuji peaches are catching on as well, from what I can see as well. We got the Fuji peaches really catching on in the chat, so that is good as well. I'm a big Fuji fan, so I welcome those. Welcome those. Also, welcome Dark Gift Comics Presents in the house. What is up, Dark Gift? Good to see you, my friend. Another comic book creator in the space out here doing some awesome things. Definitely check out his link below, guys, if you are interested in some awesome comics. Hell yes. We got Seamus in the building. What is up, Seamus? Good to see you, my friend. I see some more avocados. Keep the avocados coming, guys. We love them. We love the avocados. Keeps them coming. I see Dracula down there as well. What is up, Dracula? Always good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome. I know Dracula's gearing up for House of the Dragon as well. Hell yes. We got Buddha Cafe in the building. Sup, y'all? I'm eating sushi tonight while watching the episode. Well, there you go. You want to talk authenticity? Buddha Cafe is taking it to a next level. There you go. There you go, my friend. Sushi away. Believe it or not, I've actually never tried sushi ever in my life. Not once. I've yet to try any form of sushi. What about you, Raven? Are you a sushi fan?
You know what? I've never had anything close to authentic. I've had like the Costco sushi tray,
Yeah.
California roll or something. I wouldn't even, I wouldn't dare to say that it was authentic. I think I had it one time. I will tell you a funny, well, it was not funny to me. I didn't know anything about anything back in my youth. I think I might have had it when I was in college. Green as grass, didn't know anything. And I had, I think I did order something sushi, but I didn't know what wasabi was. I thought it was guacamole. So I was like, and I thought the pink little sliver of ginger you get, I thought that was what was so hot. So I put the little sliver of ginger on there. I was like, oh man, this shit's spicy. So I was like, well, I'll just double down on the guacamole on the next one and not put any of that hot ginger or that hot pink stuff.
Yeah.
Man, my eyes were watering. It was one of those kind of heat things where your time stops and you're like, and I was on a date too, so I'm like trying to play it off, and tears are streaming down my face, and it's like you're looking, I chugged down my water, and I'm looking across at her water. I'm like, am I just gonna throw all dignity aside and fucking chug her water down too? And I don't know. It took a good few minutes to recover my dignity, but yeah, man, the wasabi got me. I learned my lesson. At that point, I was from Central Illinois. I mean, I think the hottest thing I'd ever eaten was a mashed potato or something.
yeah, I can't do spicy food myself. There's nothing that kind of brings me to my knees quicker than spicy food. But yeah, maybe that's what Seamus means by you'll get some tears in your noodles if you're not careful. You got to watch out for that wasabi, guys. Watch out. We got Leo V in the house as well. It's almost here. Got my popcorn ready. Hell yes, Leo V. I hope all you guys are getting your popcorn ready, your drinks, whatever it is you partake in. I have my cannabis ready to go as always. And we are going to be diving into everything while we wait for the finale of Shogun to load up onto Hulu. And as Dean James asks, is this next episode the end? And yes, unfortunately, this is the ending, ladies and gentlemen. It has been such a phenomenal ride. Have been really, really loving Shogun, just like I know a lot of you have as well. But yes, this next episode does appear to be the final episode. It doesn't look like there will be a season 2 coming. But again, I have been hearing some whispers. Who knows what's true or not in this day and age, especially when it comes to Hollywood rumors. But I am hearing whispers that there could potentially be another James Clavell novel adaptation in the works. And honestly, at this point, FX and Hulu, they'd be kind of foolish not to do something like that. Seeing the just immense success that Shogun has brought to both of those networks, I imagine it has brought in a ton of new subscribers for Hulu, if nothing else. I think they would be foolish to not adapt another James Clavell novel, just seeing how well this first one was done. I mean, they would have to really pour as much effort as they did into Shogun into the next one. You don't want to see them, you don't want to see the quality get diluted. But if they can keep the same production crew together and go out there and get a solid cast like this cast was, I think that would be a home run for them to adapt another novel.
Yeah, I'm really wondering to what extent this cast was lightning in a bottle. I mean, because the thing is, if they do adapt another novel and go directly into another series, even if it's the same author that they're adapting, they're just inviting the comparisons between the two shows. So the second one really, I mean, it has to meet or exceed the extremely high standard that Shogun has set. And this cast, I don't know. I mean, I think we talked earlier in the season about who is the weak link, who's the worst of the characters, because everybody does such a superior job. And really, even the worst one, I mean, there's characters that you love and there's characters that you love to hate. that kind of stuff. But man, there really wasn't that much of a weak link. I mean, some people even like, they suggested Nabokado, but most of that was because his character was unlikable. I mean, he was
The
impulsive.
acting was still good, yeah.
Yeah, and then, well, was it Omi for influencing him? Again, that was what the character did. It was the character's actions, but the acting of the character, all of it was generally pretty good, I think. So, man, they've got a tough row to hoe if they're going to try to meet and exceed the standard that Shogun has set. But I'd like to see it. My God, if they can,
Yeah.
shoot for the moon.
Yeah, I would love to see it as well. Again, I mean, it's just maybe you're right. Maybe something like this is kind of lightning in the bottle, and it's something that you can't just kind of replicate season after season after season, because, like you said, so much stuff fell into place for Shogun to become, what it became, and all of the effort that went into it, all of the authenticity that they really focused on to bring forth a probably more accurate version of feudal Japan than any of us have ever seen, at least in a very long time. It's yeah, who knows? Maybe something like that can't be replicated over multiple seasons. But at the very least, I would love to see them at least try to adapt another novel, just seeing how well this first one was. But who knows? Who knows? But yeah, as Dean James says, they killed my bae. I know. R.I.P. to the just phenomenal Mariko, who has been such a rock throughout this entire season up until this point. And I feel, in terms of endings that are meaningful, or endings that are definitely going to have lasting impacts on the rest of the show, or even though there's only one episode left, Mariko's ending, her death, is probably one of the most impactful that we're going to see going forward. And I think it's going to shake things up.
Yeah, that really was such a phenomenal episode, because we did get our action sequences. We got ninjas showing up, shinobi. We got some like a Saved by the Bell, last minute reprieve of death by Ashido on Mariko, and then you breathe that sigh of relief after that ultimate high tension, and then out of the frying pan into the fire, here comes the night assault, and then the devastating betrayal by Yabushige, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And then the final scene itself, and Blackthorne yelling at Yabushige, get over here, for the love of God, help me, push this big chest or whatever it is in front of the door, and there's Mariko, calm as a cucumber, cool as a cucumber, just calm, and Mariko, Akechi Mariko, using her maiden name, not Toda
her
Mariko.
father's name, her born given name, yep.
And I
The
think
name
they
that
said
has been kind of tainted in some parts of Japan. I mean, I imagine some parts they look at Akechi as maybe some kind of folk hero, where some other parts, like Bintaro, talks about the filthy, disgusting line that she came from. But I love her in that final episode, just kind of almost reclaiming her identity before she went out.
Yep, she owned it, and made sure to pin it on
Ishido.
Ishido. I'm sorry. Just it's just such a cool scene. And what did she say to Blackthorne? Like, let it happen, or
let it end.
Let it
come. Let it come.
Just so calm. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see how Blackthorne responds to it. We talked about this on Wednesday, but we want to see how Blackthorne responds to it, and how is he going to respond to Yabushige kind of sandbagging, or standing there, feet frozen. Was it fear? Was it cowardice? Was it deliberate, not helping him move that
look
thing?
at that look on his face. That's fear. That is fear if I've ever seen it.
Because he thinks that door is going to go at any moment.
Yeah, he was afraid to move. He was stuck to that dang wall. But yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Blackthorne reacts to this. If anyone has seen my most recent video that I uploaded today, you might have an idea where I think Blackthorne is going to be going after the death of Mariko, and how he might probably blame a bit of that on Toranaga as well. We saw Blackthorne kind of doing everything in his power to try and get Mariko to not go to Osaka in the first place. So I definitely think he is definitely going to lay a little bit of the blame at Toranaga's feet, probably some at Yabushige's feet, and a good amount at Ashido's feet as well, I would think. But yeah, we have the episode 10 trailer that we are going to take a look at. And while we have people in here, I guess we should play it right now. We will play the episode 10 trailer, and then we will dive into it and see what we can see, because I see a comment right off the rip. A great comment from, oh, I missed it. This is a great comment too, but StreamYard just loves to jump on you, doesn't it? Sorry, great comment from Stubby Juan Kenobi had a great comment, and we're going to talk about this here in 1 minute. And welcome, Stubby Juan Kenobi. Love the name, by the way. I think Blackthorne asked Toranaga to second him because he failed to save Mariko. Toranaga lets him go through with it, thinking he can't do it, but stops him once he actually does. And I think you are onto something there, Stubby Juan Kenobi, and we're going to talk about that in depth here in 1 minute. But for now, here is the episode 10 trailer of Shogun, along with a little bonus clip that I edited into the end of it as well, a scene from episode 10. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Ishido-sama has mobilized to war. Toranaga will be dead in weeks.
Don't you understand? I came to your shores to use you! 病欠は愛ととのたらじゃ。出陣やむなし。
We live and we die. We control nothing beyond that.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the trailer for episode 10, which is just an hour and a half away from loading up onto Hulu. But yeah, like you said, Ravener, they don't like to give us a whole lot of stuff in their trailers. Their trailers have been super short up until this point, super sweet, to the point, almost to the point where you kind of only get to see who's going to be in the next episode and not a whole lot after that.
Right.
But
And
before we dive
hear
into
the part.
that, let me catch up on these super chats we have. We got a super chat from Leo V. Thank you so much, Leo V, for the super chat, my friend. That is very much appreciated. Next year for Academy or Emmy Awards, out of Mandalorian, Last of Us, Fallout, or Shogun, does Shogun beat these shows? For me, hands down, absolutely. I feel like the production of Shogun, when you look at everything, when you look at Shogun as a whole, the production that went into it, the cast, the crew, the writing, the dialogue, the sets, the costume, the just overwhelming commitment to authenticity, I don't see how any of those other shows can stack up to what Shogun managed to achieve. Last of Us started off really great. I have not seen the rest of Fallout yet. Fallout's been pretty fun. Mandalorian is kind of hit or miss at times. But something like this, like Shogun, I feel like it's almost just on a different level from a lot of those shows. So I don't think anything is going to top Shogun. I think House of the Dragon Season 2, when that comes out, might have a slight chance. But even that is going to be hard to top this. I truly think Shogun is going to be the show of the year in 2024. What
I
about
think
you, Raven? I
so.
think
I
anything's going
mean,
to top it?
the appeal is just, I think the appeal of Shogun is so broad because it's a historical thing. I mean, Mandalorian really tapped into the Star Wars fandom, but it wasn't that great for the most part. Last of Us, again, probably more satisfying for the gameplay. You know, it's a game adaptation, just like Fallout is a game adaptation. They throw a lot of member berries in there. I know a lot of people are liking Fallout. It lost me after a couple episodes. I'm probably not going to follow through with it. It just doesn't scratch the itch for me. Last of Us had a lot of filler episodes, and I remember doing the reviews on that show when we were doing them. There were episodes that were just completely like side quests, essentially, that served no purpose, barely advanced the plot, and were essentially just time killers, filling an hour out of the season. So there's nothing that's been wall to wall so calorie dense as Shogun, as far as entertainment, as far as quality of production, as far as acting, script, everything, perfect. I mean, really, really outstanding entertainment. So if there unless there's some payola, unless there's some shystery going on in the academy, I think Shogun really is the front runner by leaps and bounds, by far the front runner for almost any category that people want to, except for editing. Man, those friggin' hard black edits between that kills me, man.
It's like you said, almost every category they really did shine in. So yeah, I mean, I think any shows that are going to be coming out in the rest of 2024, they're really going to have to bring their A game if they're going to want to be, on Shogun level. I think Shogun will certainly clean up when it comes to award season. But thank you very much, Leo, for the gifted for the super chat, my friend, and thank you, Dana Marie, for the gifted memberships. It looks like Crazy Mad is now a member, and it also looks like Edwin the Ace Acevedo is now a member. Welcome one, welcome all. So glad to have each and every one of you here. And again, thank you so much, Leo V and my good friend Dana, for supporting the channel. You guys are the best, and you definitely deserve a whoa.
Whoa! And you put them in chronological order now, too? The trailer scenes?
No, I didn't. I did a video putting a certain scene in chronological order that I think is going to be happening in episode 10. But these stills are in the order that they appear in the trailer. I figured we could go through them like that, then dive a little bit deeper in. Okay. But one thing that's pretty interesting to see right off the bat is we see Father Martin with Blackthorne and Toranaga out there in the woods in Toranaga's encampment. And I feel like one thing we were starting to get a little bit of a feeling of over the last 2 episodes or so is, if nothing else, Father Martin is definitely starting to realize that Toranaga is a much better ally for the church to have, as opposed to Ashido and Ochiba. And like we said in the past, and like you guys have pointed out in the chat as well, Ochiba in particular is no fan of the Christian religion at all. The Catholic Church, she's no fan of any of it. We saw that very clearly. So you think just in terms of who is going to give them more favor and have a better relationship, Toranaga clearly seems to be the better ally for the Christian church. Seems like Father Martin has realized that, even though it seems like the bishop still is yet to kind of fully grasp the full picture. So what do you think Father Martin's role is going to be in this final episode? Do you think he's only coming into the woods here to kind of warn them about what Ashido is doing, potentially?
I believe so. I think he's unfortunately, he is a marginalized character. He's low ranking. Nobody takes him seriously. His only real benefit is his connection with Mariko. And at this point, of course, he doesn't know Mariko is splattered all over the back wall of that storeroom. He might find that out, but but I think, he'll be coming to here to be talking with Blackthorne. He'll be coming to probably he sees the winds of change, and especially with Ochiba arriving on scene, it was a tenuous balance with the Christian and non-Christian, and just because they were non-Christian doesn't necessarily mean that they were hostile to Christianity. But I think with the arrival of Ochiba, and especially the impending wedding of Ochiba and Ashido, I think Martin at least is detecting that the Christians' prospects in Osaka are on the decline. So maybe Toranaga will be maybe the lesser of two evils, kind of.
Yeah, kind of at this point, and maybe even a little bit of the more for the devil kind of thing. It seems like Martin and Toranaga, at least up until recent, had at least a working relationship where they were familiar enough with each other. It seemed like he had been the translator for the entire council for a little while up until that point. So it was the more familiar option, I would imagine. And this is a pretty interesting question right here from Dave as well. Do you think it would have been better if we had the characters speaking Portuguese with English subtitles? And that was one thing I wondered as well, because obviously we knew going into this, the show was going to be heavily subtitled with it predominantly being in Japanese. But we also knew we were going to have some Portuguese scenes as well. And of course, on the show, they don't actually speak Portuguese, they speak in English, but every time they are speaking in English, although we hear English, Blackthorne and Mariko are actually really speaking Portuguese to each other. And I get the feeling they did that swap just to make it a little more consumable for Western audiences. That's really the only reason I could think why they would make that change. They probably knew going into the show that there was going to be a probably 75% subtitles already in the Japanese speaking language. So maybe they put the Portuguese and English just to have a little bit of the show in English, just to make it maybe a little bit more consumable to a Western style audience. Me,
Absolutely.
myself, I actually would prefer it to be in Portuguese with subtitles. I actually like the subtitles a little bit better. I feel like it gives a little bit more of an authentic experience, but I think I totally understand why they went this way.
I agree with Rooftop Korean. I was saying that's too many subtitles. I mean, it
Yeah.
would essentially have relegated the show to being a 100% subtitled show. So at a certain point, it doesn't matter whether they're in the background they're speaking Portuguese or Japanese. If it's
Hmm.
entirely subtitled, then what's the point of that? And for it. I don't know. I couldn't see. I don't think I would have liked it as much if they weren't speaking English. Just as as an American consumer of entertainment, at
Makes it
least
easier.
I
Yeah.
was able to absorb some of it. It had to be at least a little bit palatable to the Western audience. I don't think they could have gotten away with it, or if they had tried it, very much the same way as some people won't even consider a subtitled show, like a lot of the
Yeah.
like Kingdom and some of the great Korean shows and stuff. It's fine.
Hmm.
But you have to be paying it unless you get it dubbed. You have to be paying attention and reading this stuff. And some people are like, I'm not even going to cast judgment. It's like some people are just like, I don't want to read. I want to see a show. I want to be entertained, but I just don't want to read all night. I'm like,
Hmm.
I can't fault you
Yeah.
for that. Sometimes I can,
Absolutely.
sometimes I can't. I have to be in a mood to do it. This show makes it very easy.
Yeah.
And it didn't really bother me. I didn't ever find it to be cumbersome, but you did have to square off that block of time for the episode. You couldn't be playing on your phone. You couldn't be doing chores. You couldn't be doing dishes,
You
walking
got to
around.
pay attention. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to be seeing what was going on. And
Mm.
the other thing is a lot of things that we are very familiar with in our Western filmmaking, TV show making, where they emphasize things with music, where they'll give you a music sting at the end to tell you something's important, or they'll build up with some suspenseful music. They really underplayed the music in this. They really didn't try. And I really find that in Western productions, I find it almost irritating where they're almost telling you how to feel or how you're supposed to
Yeah.
feel
With the
in a
score
scene.
alone. Yeah.
Yeah, this one they
Hmm.
didn't overdo it. They really were very, very subtle with it, and there were,
Yeah.
there were points at which, the music did rise and such, but they've really did a great job with that. So it kept me engrossed throughout the show, not just with the subtitles, but you needed to pay attention to these episodes. But the payoff was there. You really were rewarded with a great experience when when you stuck it out. And it's not
Yeah.
like it was a burden, and it was never burdensome. It was really, worthwhile for me at least, and obviously
Yeah.
for so many other people. So
Yeah. No, I think so. Yeah, and it seems like I said, 100% subtitles for the entire series. It maybe it would have just been a little bit too much, a little too jarring. So I understand why they went the way they did. And as Rooftop Korean brings up as well, not to mention the actors might not know Portuguese. Yeah, they would have had to go and learn an entirely new language, which would have cost even more money and even more time for them to kind of fully flesh out their Portuguese speaking roles.
oh,
So
that's
I
a super
understand
good
why
point.
they. Yeah, I
I
understand
actually
why they went this way.
I'm sorry, I keep jumping. There was actually a point at which I think they were using kind of an archaic version of Japanese, so even the Japanese speakers had to
Yes.
adjust
It was
their.
a feudal version, similar. It was a version of Japanese that they spoke back then, where today's modern version of Japanese is a little bit different. And the way Hideyoki Sanada described it was similar to the difference between our English and Shakespearean English. It's
Mm,
just it's the same but different,
yeah,
little
verily
bit
I
different.
saith unto thee. All right, well, yeah,
Yeah.
keep saying it. Go for it, man.
Yeah, indeed. And Michael Lockhart brings up, an interesting point as well. Hey, at least they subtitled the Japanese in the '80s version. There weren't any. This, which is very true. If anyone watched the original 1980s miniseries of Shogun, if you watched it right when it originally aired, all of the Japanese speaking, none of it had subtitles. So unless you understood Japanese, you had no idea what these characters were saying to one another. It wasn't until, after it had already premiered that they went back and did a dubbed version of it. So yeah, at least it wasn't that. So that's very true. Very true. Ochiba flipping has to happen on screen. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where Ochiba eventually, where she kind of lands on all of this stuff. Ochiba and Mariko, of course, had that great conversation last week as well, and you can really see obviously the deep friendship that used to be there between Ochiba and Mariko. And it was just an interesting scene between those two of them. It seems like obviously they haven't been as close as they once were in their childhood. But yeah, Ochiba just kind of pleading with Mariko in that one scene there to, what about your child? How exactly does, piercing your heart help your kid? So it was definitely an emotional scene, emotional episode as a whole, to say the least, for
Oh.
Mariko's character.
Yeah, I love that too. I mean, and it was I mean, they were childhood friends who were separated by circumstance, but I didn't get like the resentment. Sometimes when you have that and then
Yeah.
the lives take two different paths and then you end up on opposite side, there's like a resentment or a hatred or something, by one to the other. I didn't pick that up from Ocha, but it was more just like a sadness of what was lost. And again, because they're women in this hierarchy, in this structure, they weren't really able to do anything about it. They were kind of just being tossed on the waves,
Mm.
in a way.
Yeah, there's only so much agency they had at the end of the day, just given the nature of the time period, which is very true. Stubby Wan Kenobi says the script was originally in English, translated to Japanese, and back and forth at least 5 times to make sure translation was perfect. And that's kind of understandable. I could understand. I could see them doing that, where they'll have different teams kind of translating and translating it back and forth, just to really dot all the I's and cross all of the T's. It's a lot of work, and especially when you have a cast like this that is so multicultural. And I know the predominant makeup of the cast is Japanese, but there's also a decent amount of American production there as well. And from what we hear behind the scenes, it was a very seamless transition in terms of the blending of Japanese production and the Western style production. It seems like everybody worked together very well, got along, and you can see it in the final result. You don't have, if there was a bunch of problems on set, I imagine that we wouldn't have gotten such a phenomenal product at the end of the day. But yeah, it's I could totally see why they did that, kind of translating it multiple times just to make sure they got everything right. 1980 Shogun, you guys mentioned before how they crowded the show up with music. Absolutely. Again, that's one thing that I do remember from some of these scenes from the 80s version is the music. It can be really intense at times. It can kind of throw you out of the mood. And Ravener, you brought up that really good point where score is incredibly important on a show, especially today's shows, where if you have one of those scores that is deliberately trying to, manipulate your emotion into feeling this way during this scene or that way during that scene, it can work at times. I feel like that stuff works really good with action films. But with something like this that has a totally different tone, a much more serious tone, much more adult tone to it, I really appreciated that they did not go overboard with the music. So that is a good point you guys brought up.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can do, even with in a show like this where it is set in that time period, you can do up tempo music that sounds like it's from the period, even if it's not entirely
Mhm.
authentic. One strong counterpoint, or like an example of the opposite, is we talked about Blue Eye Samurai, and that's an animation. They do a lot of crazy stuff, and it's very bombastic and but it's set in a similar time period, like I think 1633. So they are running around with swords and whatnot. But every once in a while, a couple of times in that episode, they played like the Kill Bill theme, and then one time they played a Japanese version of "For Whom the Bell Tolls" by Metallica, and it didn't hit for me. Some people probably might have loved it because it was almost like a action sequence montage kind of thing where one person is killing 20 people in a mass. But it just doesn't hit for me like that.
Mhm.
And especially the anachronism in Blue Eye Samurai. But this one again, I loved how they handled it here. Um, and I'm not gonna belabor the point about the hard black edits. That's the only real criticism I have about the show, about the production, how they'll end a scene and just go straight to black, and you'll get about a
And
2 Mississippi of nothing. And
well, and again, someone was bringing it up in the chat, and they're totally 100% right. The reason why we have those dark black edits, I mean, I'm kicking myself in the head why I didn't think of this sooner. It makes perfect sense. Is because the show airs on FX with commercials as well. So every time we see one of those hard outs, that's when a commercial starts in the FX version. They could have blended it a little better for the Hulu version, but at least we got an explanation as to why they kind of have that hard out edits like that, because they're
uh,
accounting for the commercials in between on the FX version when it airs on regular cable. So
okay,
very good
yeah.
point. So very
Man,
good
good
point there.
job, guys. Yeah, I wouldn't have really it wouldn't have occurred to me about that.
Mhm.
Yeah, the way we get, and especially because it's like entire scene transitions. They're going from one scene to like they'll go from an
Yeah,
indoor scene to an outdoor in the village, So yeah, but that makes perfect sense about the commercials. Good
makes a
job.
little more
Good job,
sense if
catching.
nothing else. Yeah, definitely. And I love this right here. I love that so many non-Japanese love this show, and absolutely, I feel like for a lot of us, it has given us such a profound and deep respect for the culture as a whole. And I saw quite a few interviews where the actor who plays Toranaga, Hideyoki Sanada, had said quite a few times in quite a few intros where, if nothing else, one of their main goals with Shogun was to share an authentic look at Japanese culture with the rest of the world. And I feel like if nothing else, they hit a freaking grand slam when it comes to that. They really shared. We got such a fascinating look at the just culture as a whole in this hectic time during the feudal era of Japan during the end of the Sengoku period, which was incredibly bloody. A very much a war torn history, but the way that Hideyoki Sanada was kind of describing that they really wanted to share a authentic look at Japanese culture with the rest of the world, I feel like they are 100%. They nailed it in that aspect, because me and quite a lot of us who have been watching the show, we're coming out of it with such a deeper understanding and a deeper respect for the Japanese culture as a whole. And it's just so fascinating. It's such a fascinating history, such a fascinating people. And I am super thankful to the cast, the crew, everyone who brought this show to Western audiences and beyond. Super thankful that we were able to get this look at a authentic version of Japanese history, and it's just been fascinating. So if they were really trying to share their culture with the world, they did it. They did it tenfold, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, it was super eye-opening for, to see what life was like back then, portrayed in a as accurate of a way as possible, and for the first few episodes, we were almost like like Blackthorne was a surrogate for the audience. We're, like, being
We're
shown these
washing up our shore with
shocking.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like these horrifying and shocking cultural differences, watching a callous disregard for life, like the villager that Omi beheaded, you know, immediately at the very beginning of the show. The guy being boiled alive. We're like, what is wrong with these people? And then gradually, but then there's certain aspects of Blackthorn's behavior that the Japanese felt was completely barbaric. So it was very much a culture shock, very much a fish out of water story, and we were brought
Yeah.
along for the ride with that.
Yes.
And it also like the way life was, it came, they lived fast and then they died. They could die at a moment's notice. They could kill themselves, any number of reasons. And again,
Natural
they had also just
disasters,
come off.
all kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, they'd come from a long period of war where death was no stranger to anybody at any level, from the highest to the lowest. And then then we had the earthquake scene where you could be killed by the elements, you could be killed by the world you live in, everything about that. um it really was just eye-opening for me. And then you could kind of understand how Christianity could take hold, because that was more so than, say, Buddhism, more so than the animist Shinto religion. You had at least the promise of something, in the here beyond. You could see where that would take over, and then you could see how it would be pushed back against, because it also didn't serve they also had a very highly organized bureaucracy, a political structure. Everything about the society was structured, and having these Western ideas come in, really, it was like a square peg in a round hole kind of thing, trying to find where can we make this thing fit as well. So yeah, it was super intriguing anyway, though. And when we saw that with the influences with the Portuguese, with the priests and whatnot, and then not just the priests but the merchants and how they had to function in relation to the ongoing government there. And we're seeing the government can change at the drop of a hat. So if you're super in with the previous guy, you may not be super in with the next guy. And I think we will see, they will see that coming up after Tokugawa, aka Toranaga, wins.
Yeah, they definitely, if nothing else, they definitely have showcased a very intriguing look at the kind of the political day-to-day trappings of power that tend to happen in situations like this, where the political maneuvering is just as important, if not more important, than battle formation sometimes. And this show definitely kind of nails that aspect home, where it's not all battles and fighting that this time period was known for. I know a lot of people think samurai and they instantly think of what great warriors they were, which they were. But I love how this show just shows us so much more than that. They were so much more than just warriors. They were, it was just this was a true authentic look. And again, I can't praise the authenticity enough. They really went all out. Vincent asks, what will happen to Fuji? Yes, we have Fuji Sama. We will see her in the final episode, obviously. If the trailer that we just watched, we do get a quick little glimpse of Fuji, although it's really hard to see what exactly is going on in her scene. We see her for just a split second, but she will be in this final episode, obviously. And it'll be interesting to see how her story ends. If the book is any blueprint, we obviously have that option, or you never know, the show could end up going in a different direction. You never know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Fuji again. We haven't seen a whole lot of her over the last few episodes, so I need my Fuji fix.
I know. And guys in the chat, I don't know either. I don't know. I haven't read the book, and I didn't watch the 1980s version, so I couldn't provide a spoiler if I wanted to. So yeah, I couldn't even guess what's going to happen. I wish the best, but man, I don't know who's gotten a happy ending so far in this one.
We shall find out in just over an hour's time, ladies and gentlemen, just over an hour's time. Will Spear says, I'm glad they didn't throw Blackthorne and Mariko affair onto center stage of the story. And that's something that we have noticed a little bit as well, where the love story between Blackthorne and Mariko, it wasn't an overwhelming part of the story. Yes, it was there, but it was almost like a side story at times compared to the main story of these three characters, interacting with each other and forming alliances and just showcasing this time period as a whole. And I actually like that they went that way as well. I mean, sometimes shows can kind of fall into that trap to make everything about the love story first and foremost. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. But I really like that how they chose to portray Mariko and Blackthorne's relationship on the show, where it wasn't just a huge, heavy-handed part of the show, and they kind of sprinkled it in there just enough. So I applaud them for that.
Yeah. I didn't find it distracting. It certainly wasn't the center point, and there were points at which we felt that it was almost a little cold, or we weren't feeling the heat from the passion and stuff simmering under the surface. But they did have a lot to work with, and they chose to put the weight on the side of the political intrigue and that kind of stuff. And I think the balance was just about right. I didn't feel one side was over or underdone. So I was satisfied again. Well, once again, man, I said early on, this show was a 10, and they could have a 10 out of 10, and the 10 was theirs to lose through the episodes. And I thought maybe they might have done it, because I was really down on episode 8, but man, did they rally in episode 9. Episode 10, they might be able to recover that 10 out of 10 rating from me.
Yeah, I guess we shall see, or 10 out of 10 avocados, as it were, here in the chat.
That is true.
And yes, Michael Lockhart, 100%, absolutely the best fake earthquake ever filmed. I really applaud what everything that went into filming that. If anyone watched some of the behind the scenes features that they released on the FX YouTube channel, they go in pretty well in depth on what it took to create that earthquake scene, where they created a whole mountain pretty much for that scene. They built an entire side of a mountain just for that earthquake scene. So yeah, when you see Blackthorne jumping down that mountain, that is a real big ass mountain that they built right there on set just for that scene. So it probably cost a lot, but it was definitely worth it in the end to kind of rely heavily on practical effects over digital. You guys know us. We are huge proponents for practical effects over digital. Nothing takes me out of a show or a movie faster than bad CGI. So I really love Shogun's. They kind of leaned on practical effects as much as they possibly could. If there was an option to do practical or digital, seems like they were leaning on practical as much as they possibly could. And that just really helps with the authenticity look, at least for me as a viewer. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of overly used CGI. I really like the practical effects. When will it air? It will air in about 1 hour's time, ladies and gentlemen. We got about 1 more hour together to hang out and talk Shogun before the finale airs on Hulu. And tomorrow night, although it airs tonight, tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 9 p.m. is when the show usually airs for the rest of the world on the FX network. So tomorrow night, we are going to try and do a live watch party for the finale. It can be an encore if you already watched it, or if you're watching it for the first time, you can come hang out with us tomorrow. But I am going to try and do a live watch party for the finale tomorrow night at 9 or 10 p.m. as well. So be on the lookout for that if you guys want to come back for an encore viewing of the finale, and we can discuss it afterwards. I'd like to see Toranaga's spy finally in battle armor when he faces Ashido's army. And we actually do see a little glimpse of Mujaro here in the trailer as well. And speaking of, let's see what else we can see here on the trailer. Now, next, of course, we see Toranaga contemplating, of course, his next move. But then we get into some of the meat, and it's kind of hard to tell, but this almost looks like Toranaga's spy a little bit. He's got kind of that same physique, same hair. This almost looks like him. I know it's really hard to tell, but I wouldn't be too surprised if that is Mujaro, his prized samurai who has been in hiding in Yabushige's part of the neck of the woods. But here we go. Now, this was one of the deciding stills that led me to believe that the whole Blackthorne seppuku scene is potentially going to be happening in the finale. Now here, of course, we see Blackthorne down on his knees with Toranaga walking away from him. Now, the way the trailer plays these scenes, they definitely play them out of sequential order. But if we can try to play doctor and kind of hack and slash these scenes to correct sequential order, I think we can start to see a plan overall, or a scene start to take shape overall. And we'll return to that in a little bit. And we also see here Blackthorne yelling to Toranaga that I came to your country to use you. So in this moment, you can kind of just totally see Blackthorne's frustration boiling over to the surface, where he's just letting Toranaga know exactly how he feels. And obviously, I get the feeling that most of his anger is likely tied to Mariko's death, and how much he probably blames Toranaga for having a hand in Mariko's death. Like we said in the past, Blackthorne spent many conversations with Mariko trying to get her not to go to Osaka. He feared for her life. He knew something bad would happen to her. So I get the feeling this is most likely just Blackthorne letting out his frustration on Toranaga, blaming Toranaga a little bit for the death of Mariko, while also maybe even attempting his seppuku scene. But Yeah, I don't know. When you saw this, Ravener, what did you think? You think this is just Blackthorne finally getting frustrated after a while and just letting it all out?
It came out as one of those things where you really have had it and you really just wanted to say everything that you've been holding in. The one
Mhm.
thing I noticed in the trailer, it seemed like when he goes, the scene where he goes, use you or whatever, the volume was different than the words that he was saying prior. So it might have been
Yeah.
part of that sentence, but it wasn't exactly the same. So I don't know at what point. I think the dialogue part of that trailer, especially in this little scene, wasn't wasn't in sequence, wasn't at least
No, it's not.
contiguous with each other. It seemed a little strange. I saw somebody in the chat like speculating that, well, yeah, that Blackthorne was going to be the second for what, Yabushige or somebody being ordered to
Mm,
commit seppuku, because Blackthorne was there when uh, Yabushige kind of like sandbagged and helping move that chest over
yeah.
that could have saved Mariko's life. We'll
Mhm.
see, man. There's a lot going on there, but again, it looks like Toranaga, he's walking away. He seems to be that guy where he's got a lot on his mind, but he's also the Lord where he doesn't give you his time if he doesn't want to give you his time. So this insect can be shouting at him as much as he wants to. Guess what, dude? I'm getting ready to go into a war. I've got a lot of irons in the fire. I don't have time to deal with your tantrum.
Mhm.
You're not the only one who's sad about Mariko, exploding. Kind of, that's what I'm
Yeah.
picking up from Toranaga. So I don't know how that
Mhm.
scene's gonna go.
I have a pretty good idea as how I think this scene is going to go, and again, everything that we're seeing in the trailer is definitely not happening in sequential order. In fact, the very last scene that we see in this trailer of Toranaga lifting up his sword, getting ready to seemingly be someone's second, that scene actually happens well before this conversation, well before it. So they definitely play these things well out of sequence for sure, and we're going to return to that one right at the end
Good, good.
because I have an idea of exactly what is happening in that scene.
Okay.
But next we have a scene of Ashido speaking with the rest of the council, talking about the vote is done and that war is inevitable. And I know we had a pretty in-depth discussion over the last few weeks discussing whether or not Toranaga's brother was in on Toranaga's plan or whether or not he really portrayed Toranaga. And I get the feeling he definitely really did portray Toranaga. I don't get the feeling that he is secretly in on this plan, although it's possible. But it seemed like the chat was pretty much leaning that way as well, where they don't think Toranaga's brother is part of the plan and that he really did betray Toranaga. And I think that's probably what happened as well.
Yeah, I think we would have seen it already if we were going to, because yeah, if he's
Yeah.
sitting here at the actual vote, he looks pretty comfy. And again, like I said,
Yeah.
man, the offer was, I mean, he was the mediocre son off in the sticks guarding a peaceful river or whatever.
Yeah.
Getting a seat on the Council of Regents, because at this point these guys think that once Toranaga is disposed of, they're going to be the Council of Regents for the foreseeable and the very long future, until the heir comes of age. So
Yeah, at
he
least for
thinks this is
another
a
decade
permanent
or so.
position. Yeah, he
Yeah.
doesn't see it as anything temporary or
Hmm.
fungible or anything. He's
Yeah.
got that was a come up for him, and why not?
It's a social climb at the end of the day because, like you said, he goes from being the lord of this kind of backwater river to all of a sudden being one of the five most powerful people in all of Japan, essentially being on the council. So, yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes blood is not thicker than water, or is thicker than water, I should say. His brother is a snake, says Doc Hayes. And as Michael Lockhart points out, nope, he just wants Ochiba's kimono. Yeah, maybe that's all he wants. Maybe that's all he wants. His brother was a bit of Nagakado. Oof, damn, Jen. Hand-drawn like is having some sake tonight in honor of Fuji and all that died for this finale. Absolutely, my friend. Raise the sake. Hell, heat the sake up. That's what I say. You want some warm sake in this building. Very good stuff. We got Ahmed says, I don't care, Toranaga lose and die. I just want to watch Blackthorne blow Ashido's head. I'm right there with you, my friend. I feel Ashido has definitely been, he's been a pretty formidable villain, I would say, on the season up until this point. He's been a pretty decent foe for Toranaga. And the acting, I mean, what can we say about the acting? He has been so phenomenal in this role. And it's always one of those things where if you could truly, really despise a character that is meant to be despised, if nothing else, that is a really good sign that this is a good actor and they did their job well. And I definitely get that feeling with Ishido. The actor has been so phenomenal in this role, and he's been a pretty good villain, I must say. He's been a fun villain to watch.
Yeah, he's been competent, and that's the trap that people have, that shows really do fall into. When you have somebody who they basically announce to you that Toranaga is a master strategist and a master of politics and this other stuff. So what ends up happening is your villain turns into the coyote walking into all of the Roadrunner's traps and stuff. This guy, from the beginning, and it's something they've did so admirably, is everybody had their own objectives. The two Christian daimyos, they had their goals, that weren't always in line with everybody else's, but and Toranaga had his, and Ishido had his. If Ishido had been the main character in this story, we'd get a love story between him and Ochiba, and Toranaga would be the villain. But there, I think the one thing that he did do is he did believe in Toranaga's ruse, which that was still plausible, though. There's no reason to think that there was no reason for him to think otherwise, especially in regards to what Toranaga's brother had just, or half brother had just done. So he was a plausible villain. Yeah, his plots are working. A lot of Toranaga's incredible knowledge was attributed to the amount of spies that he has. He has spies everywhere, so he knows everything. He knows things that he couldn't possibly know, that kind of stuff. So as viewers, we accepted that. We suspended disbelief and said, okay, that's plausible, we'll believe it. But there's a lot of stuff that Ishido has done that it's plausible. Maybe he falls for it, maybe he doesn't. Will he fall? There's questions. Will he fall for it? Will he believe it? Will he? But some of these guys, you're not gonna automatically. I mean, Ishido probably doesn't think that Toranaga is leaps and bounds, orders of magnitude better than him at this political scheming and maneuvering, especially with his backstory as a guy who is, like a bureaucrat and rising, and now they're at the same level. They're both sitting on the Council of Regents. So he's like, why should I tip my cap to this guy? There's a lot of like underlying psychology to these guys, and the way they pull them off without turning any one character into a clown or into a superhero. It's really amazing and so well done. I've just been enjoying that, and really, more than anything, appreciative that they're not overdoing it. All of it is plausible. All of it is reasonable. All of it is people acting the way, it may not be the way I act, but you could certainly see somebody else act in this way. You don't have to apply your own what you would do. You could see, well, I could see somebody doing that, and maybe in the same situation I would do that. So
and that's one thing that I feel like we've definitely applauded the show on this in the past multiple times, where the show, they don't seem to be falling into these traps of falling into these tropes that a lot of similar shows like this or movies have fallen into in the past, where you have these kind of similar tropes and traps that these kind of movies can fall into. And then it ends up becoming kind of clichéic. And I feel like Shogun has avoided every single one of those traps, and they haven't really gone into that territory. They've really kind of pulled back the reins. They did their own thing. They had a very specific tone and feel to the show, and they kind of kept that tone and feel very consistent throughout all of the episodes. So I really applaud them for not kind of falling into those tropes, which many productions do. Hand Drawn Life says Ishido's actor plays Anasawai's dad in Monarch. I wonder if they'll ever had an awkward moment after Shogun. LOL. And Ravener and I were actually discussing a little bit of that before the stream, where I have not actually seen Monarch yet. It's on my wish list. I've been meaning to start it at some point, and I didn't even realize someone mentioned it in our live stream last week that the actress who plays Mariko, Anna Sawai, is in Monarch as well, and so is the actor playing Ishido. So yeah, it just makes me want to watch Monarch that much more, actually. So yeah, that's I wonder if there were any awkward scenes after the two productions. And yeah, Ishido is definitely Shogun's version of Joffrey a bit. Yeah, kind of, I guess, kind of. Joffrey's a little bit more impetulant and childish, where I feel like Ishido is probably this version's Shogun's version of Tywin over Joffrey. I definitely get a little bit more of Tywin Lannister vibes from Ishido than I do Joffrey, but definitely the villain for sure, and a great villain at that. Sometimes shows and movies are only ever as good as the villain. The heroes are always going to do the hero's journey, what the hero's meant to do. It's villains that usually tend to surprise me in terms of their performance and impact on a story. And sometimes a show or a movie is only as good as its villain. And they had really good antagonists. Very great actors in antagonistic roles on this show. Ishido, Ochiba, another great one, and even Yabushige. Been a huge fan of Yabushige's performance up until this point. Tatsunobu Asano's performance has been so freaking good. When it comes to award season, if Tatsunobu Asano doesn't at least get a couple nods for Best Supporting Actor, then he will certainly be getting snubbed, because his performance has been up there with as good as any other actor or actress's performance on the entire series. So they've had some really good antagonistic roles on Shogun. Very good villains.
Yeah, Yabushige had me guessing. I think a lot of people also, right up until the point where the Shinobi grappling hooks went up over the ramparts.
Is he going to redeem himself? Is he not?
Yeah. Is he going to do it? It can't be. Is he really going to betray? No. Yeah, we found out, man, and I don't know how he tap dances his way out of this, and I'm doubting that he does tap dance his way out. Just from what we've seen in the trailer, his tap dancing days might be over, and he better settle on that last will. The last will that he writes, it better be we better make it a keeper.
Yeah, that was great, man. Just I know we've talked about it many times in the past, but again, just the friggin' theme of him writing and rewriting the will all season. It's just I love how this show sprinkled in some really good moments of comedic levity from time to time, and it wasn't just that serious tone all throughout. Because that if you have a very serious tone that this show does, you need those moments of levity from time to time just to kind of keep the audience fresh and motivated. And it's good to have a laugh and to break up the serious tone every once in a while with some good comedy. And Yabushige has been a great source of comedic levity throughout the show. Blackthorne too at times, and of course one of our fan favorites here, at least on this channel, Rodriguez. And I'm so bummed we didn't get some more Rodriguez scenes. The Rodriguez scenes in Blackthorne, those two on screen together were just absolute magic. The banter back and forth between Blackthorne and Rodriguez was so good that I'm really bummed we didn't get a little bit more of Rodriguez on the series. That's one of my only kind of critiques for the show, is more Rodriguez. Come on.
Well, the humor it humanizes these people, because otherwise these guys would be so serious all the time, always worried about the next move, so dour, and plus they're kind of like their attitude towards death, their like acceptance of nothing we do matters, it can all be taken away in a second. So to have them make those little moments of levity, or to have Yabushige just get absolutely fed up, like every time I escape death, there's another death waiting around the corner for me. You're like, okay, I could see somebody getting fed up with that, or like you said, Rodriguez, hey, next time you piss drinking bastard, next time I see you, I'll kill you, ha ha ha, and they're having that banter. It's like, okay, yeah, you that's the
Yeah,
thing,
it's
man. It wasn't
the
always
banter's been
colorless
great.
and gray. Yeah, foggy and
Yeah.
gray and grim. There
Hmm.
was a grimness to life, but these were people, man. People love to laugh. They had
Right.
enjoyments other than just feasting and drinking. They had the no, like that super involved no scene. With the acting and stuff, where we talked about it. They brought the actors in, like professional no performers from Japan, just for that scene. They enriched their lives the same way we want to enrich our lives, and it was
Yeah.
so awesome. And the humor was just one facet of that, where they,
Mm.
are actual people with actual desires,
It's just
actual goals. Yeah,
another relatable aspect that the audience can kind of grab onto, that even though these are characters from a totally different world and a totally different time period, at the end of the day they are still human, so you do have that kind of relatability to some of these characters when you have those comedic moments. I mean, if there's one thing everybody does, it's laugh from time to time.
right.
Humor is very much a universal language, if nothing else. So yeah, like you said, it gives that relatability to some of these characters. This is a pretty interesting question and an interesting idea as well. I think one of the themes of the end is that Moniko's death allows a lot of the characters to reconcile. Now, that's an interesting way to approach it as well, because we have seen a lot of kind of falling outs in between certain characters throughout the series. And yeah, who knows? Maybe even Mariko's death could bring some of these characters a little closer together. Buntaro and Blackthorne kind of comes to mind. First and foremost, we've seen them two kind of butting heads all season. They're not big fans of one another, but one thing they do have in common is Mariko. They're caring their feelings for Mariko. So yeah, that's a very good point, Baron. Maybe Mariko's death could potentially bring some characters together in a form of reconciliation. I didn't even think of that, but that's a good point.
Whew, after that tea house scene, I don't know that Bantaro will ever cozy up to Blackthorne,
Maybe
and
not. Maybe
oh,
not.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be tough. But it'll be interesting to see. Again, I mean, they have 1 hour. I think, who was it? Michael that said it was 77 minutes. So yeah, just
77 minutes for the finale. Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
yeah,
A little bit
an hour
longer
and
than the
17.
regular episodes, but not as long as we would have liked it. I would have loved to see like an hour and a half, 2 hours for the final episode. That would have been great. But yeah, it looks like we're getting around, 15 minutes more, 17 minutes more than we usually get. So, which is good. I'm glad it's a little bit extended at least. But like you said, still a lot to get through in only one episode. So it's going to be interesting. And I wonder how just the pacing of the episode is going to be. How's the tone of the episode going to be? We've talked time and time again as whether or not we will actually see the final battle on screen, or whether or not they'll kind of just allude to it. And with them having to get through so much in this final episode, I feel like the evidence is getting more and more overwhelming in favor of them not showing a full pitch battle scene. As much as I would love to see that, I get the feeling it might not be in the cards. We might see a little bit of it, maybe the very beginning of it or the very ending of it, but I'd be very surprised if we get like a full pitched Battle of the Bastards type battle scene in
Oh,
this episode. I don't think
I'm
that's coming.
yeah, I think the chances of that are approaching 0%. I
Yeah.
think we're not going to get that. The one thing that was kind of gave me heart about the show is it was very calorie dense as far as what they put in the scenes. There were little filler scenes, but the thing about them was, even the filler scenes, they progress a plot with a certain number of characters, or
Yeah.
the two characters talking about a third character, pushed it forward. So even if that scene in a standalone didn't really accomplish much, it did push the plot forward. So they've been very, very focused. They really do move the plot forward. So I actually do believe they're not going to have loose ends here. I think they are it's going to be it is going to be packed. It's going to be packed either with action or with like dramatic resolutions, with people's interactions and stuff. I don't imagine they'll just have somebody right off into the sunset, never to be heard from again, and we don't know what happens to them. I think everybody's going to some sort of conclusion, I would hope. And
Yeah, they're not going
I
to
mean,
leave anything too ambiguous. I would feel. I have a feeling that it's going to have a finality feeling to it. Yeah.
yeah. And Anna Sawai in her interview did say that there is going to be a reveal in episode
Yep, a
10.
twist at the end,
I
right?
don't
Okay,
know what the reveal is. I don't know, you know,
should be
who it
interesting.
is related to. I bet it's
Mhm.
not Mariko. And you know what was funny? And I'll tell you this,
Twist! She didn't
just
die. She survived the whole time. That was the twist.
right.
Mariko's back.
Yeah, she had a bulletproof back brace, whatever.
Yeah, she
No.
got a bulletproof body.
You know what was funny?
But
I
no,
thought in that in that interview, she actually called Mariko. She said both Mariko and Mariko. So I was like, am I saying it wrong? No, the lady that played her said both in the interview. So I'm like, okay, I don't feel so bad.
mm. Yeah, I try. All you can do is try to pronounce things as best as you possibly can, and try not to get too hung up on the pronunciation. You try to pronounce it as much as as well as you can, obviously. But being that we are Americans that don't speak Japanese, where we do as good as we can. I
Yep.
say Mariko just because I feel like it kind of falls off the tongue a little easier for me. But I have heard other people say Mariko as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, whatever floats your boat. You're never going to hear me complain about that.
Yeah.
But speaking of the final battle scene that we may or may not get, most likely probably will not get, we have these stills that have not aired in any episode yet, and it looks like they will be airing in this final episode here, excuse me, where we have Ashido dressed in full armor with his army behind him, and we have Toranaga dressed in his full armor with his army behind him. And again, if anyone is familiar with the books, you might have an idea as to how things might play out on the show. And I get the feeling it is going to play out similar on the show as it did in the books, where as much as I really want to see a full-blown, full-pitch battle, I would love to see that. Everything that we've seen from the show up until this point tells us this is not what this show's about. This show is not a war story. It's a prelude to war story. It's a country on the brink of war. That has been the story up until this point. And this show's strength hasn't been in its, big spectacle action scenes. It's been in its good writing, its just phenomenal, compelling characters. This is a character drama at the end of the day. This is a story about these intriguing characters and everything that they are going through at this point in time. It hasn't really relied heavily on big spectacle and fight scenes. And I love that. I love when a scene can just carry itself on nothing but good writing and good acting. And that's what Shogun's been up until this point. So I imagine they're not going to deviate all of a sudden in this final episode and rely super heavy on big action spectacle. Maybe we'll get a small glimpse of it, but I get the feeling this show is going to continue in the blueprint that it has laid out up until this point, where it relies more heavily on good acting, good dialogue, good performances over the kind of cheap spectacle that we see in some other productions. So as much as I want to see a big battle, I get the feeling we are not in for a Battle of the Bastards type episode.
Nah, I think we got our action with the shinobi sequence, and that
Yeah.
was all very self-contained, very like indoors, running through essentially like running through a haunted house kind of thing. Around every corner there might be somebody type of thing. Blackthorne shooting through the screen and grabbing the dude and shooting, that kind of stuff. I don't see anything massive. I wonder. I mean, these would have absolutely been publicity stills then, the things that we're seeing here,
They could
unless
be.
they've
They could just be
yeah,
publicity stills. Maybe it's not even in the episode. That's a possibility. Yeah,
yeah. And that one
that's a
thing that you put,
possibility.
the one that you showed where that it was in silhouette, but that guy had that awesome looking helmet with the that just radiated out like little fins radiating all the way out from his
Oh, the
helmet.
Tycho's armor,
Was
and
that
in
what
that,
was that what it was?
yes, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, I saw it in
Yeah, his
in
armor
the
is
trailer.
very extravagant, and very not gaudy, but it's very extravagant in its design. And it was a sign of that was a sign of of status for the
Mhm.
Tycho. His armor, of course, is going to be the biggest, loudest armor out there because he is the Tycho. So
Oh,
that's kind of what I gathered from it, anyway.
yeah, and they show. I mean, and those masks also create like the samurai, the helmet, the masks that go under the helmet.
Hmm.
They create such a powerful visual. I feel like it would almost be a missed opportunity not to have it somewhere in here. But again, you can't
Hmm.
really have that if you don't have the battle. And I think even in the actual battle, Tokugawa didn't wear his helmet early on because he was trying to build the morale of his troops. And you showed disregard for the enemy by not wearing your helmet. He
By
didn't
not wearing a
put it
helmet.
on
Yeah.
later. Yeah. So, but yeah, this would have been an awesome scene. Yeah. Now we're going to sit here and talk about what would have been an awesome scene if they had it.
Yeah.
But
It's going to be interesting to see if this is in the final episode or if this does turn out to just be kind of promotional material. Although I haven't seen them use this as promotional material in any promotion they've done up until this point, other than a quick little clip in a behind the scenes video. So that leads me to believe that it probably is a scene from the episode, but I don't think we're going to see the ensuing battle. I get the feeling they'll probably skip over the actual battle. But either way, I'm looking forward to seeing if this is in the episode or not, because it's been
yeah.
one of the only promotional material clips that I've seen that hasn't been in the show yet, where a lot of the other ones that I've seen I have ended up spotting in other episodes. So yeah, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see, but we are just over a half an hour away from finding out.
I know.
Michael Lockhart says, I wonder how Yabu will rate his death as not as high as boiling, but better than slipping on a rock. Yeah, if Yabushige is indeed going to meet his end in this final episode, which he may or he may not. Again, the book is a blueprint, but you never know. The show could end up deviating. The show has already deviated from the book in certain areas. So yeah, if Yabushige does in fact die in the final episode, I wonder how he will rate his final death. Yeah, I guess it depends on which manner he dies in. Will he get an honorable end, or will it be something a little less honorable? I'm not sure.
Ooh, yeah,
I am not
definitely.
sure.
Got to be better than eaten by dogs.
Gotta be better. Gotta be better. Our stick of time is almost over with Shogun 2024. I know, and it is, like I said, it is definitely bittersweet. As much as I am really looking forward to watching this final episode, and I'm really looking forward to our live watch party that we are going to be doing right here on the channel tomorrow as well. So if anyone doesn't have a chance, or if anyone is watching this on the replay and you haven't seen the final episode, we will be doing a Shogun live watch party tomorrow night right here on the channel as well. So come back for the encore and hang out with us. But yeah, I'm right there with you, Seamus, where it's bittersweet. I'm really looking forward to seeing this final episode, but I'm going to miss it when it is gone. But yeah, dems to breaks. Dems to breaks. Leo V says, seeing Ishido defeated will be satisfying for me. Absolutely, I'm right there with you as well, Leo V. Again, Ishido has been a phenomenal villain, and I mean, if you can, I rate a lot of shows based on their characters. You know, story's great. I love a good story, love good writing, but you know, if the characters, if I can't get behind the characters, or if I can't find something in the characters that I get invested in, I tend to not get too invested in that show or movie. And these characters have just been so freaking phenomenal. And again, they've had great villains. Ishido has been a pretty good antagonist up until this point. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty fun to watch him meet his end, if he does meet his end. That is. I can't believe the Brits took the Strait of the Strait of Magellan to get to Japan. That's freaking far, says Buddha Cafe. Yeah, and again, you know, back then where the map is nowhere near as filled out as it is nowadays, and them trying to establish trading routes and you know, new trading routes, especially in an area where that was predominantly already controlled by the Portuguese. Yeah, it looks like Blackthorne and his crew had to you know, go a long way around. They fall. Let's see what else we got. Big reveal: the heir is Toranaga's child, and again, that was something we talked a little bit about as well. Whereas it doesn't seem like the Taiko was even capable of having children. Almost like the Taiko himself was probably shooting blanks. And if that is the case, how exactly did Ochiba get pregnant? We saw in that one episode, we see, you know, a few of the rituals and remedies that Ochiba would be put through in order to try and get pregnant, with the teas and the tinctures and everything she had to drink. but stuff like that only goes so far if the male in the scenario is shooting blanks. So yeah, if that is the case, if the Taiko was not the real father of Ochiba's child, who was? Who was? I know
Right.
Toranaga. A lot of people seem to think Toranaga. I don't think it was Toranaga, but I think if anything, Toranaga will probably know who it is.
Right. Well, she said she forced fate to look at her, right? So she could
Yep.
scratch out its eyes. So what exactly did she mean when she said that? Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But what would surprise me is somebody flat out says it. Ochiba or anybody else says, "Oh yeah, by the way, we know the truth behind who the heir's father is."
Yeah.
Who? Yeah, that would be a heck of a reveal too. I didn't really think of. I mean, that's a straight up Maury Povich reveal. Uh,
Yeah. And the father is. You are not the father. Comes, yeah, we see Maury just pop out of the pavilion with a manila envelope in his hand. That's how the series ends, guys. Spoilers. Rodriguez is going to take over the black ship. Toranaga did not like the present captain. This is true. This is true. I mean, I think Rodriguez would be a much better captain, at least a much better ally, anyway, than the current captain would be. But let's see what else we got here. Next in the trailer, we see this shot of Blackthorne unsheathing his wakizashi. And this is, again, a very interesting scene. I feel like these scenes are not happening in sequential order the way they are presented to us in the trailer. But I do get the feeling that this right here is Blackthorne's seppuku attempt. And I say attempt because I'm not 100% sure that he will go through with it. Again, this is just a theory. I have no idea what is actually going to be coming. But if we piece some of these scenes together, it looks like there is a potential Blackthorne seppuku attempt in the final episode. We also see this. We see Kiri no Kata, which is Toranaga's wife, and his other one, who had just recently given birth. In mourning, they're in their mourning attire. I imagine they are mourning the death of Mariko. Maybe we'll see a small scene of a Mariko funeral procession, maybe. Who knows? But it seems like they are dressed in mourning attire, judging by the black veils. Next, we see a very interesting scene, and we only see a quick flash of it in the trailer, but it was more than enough to get all of us wondering what exactly is happening here and what is Yabushige's fate going to be. And judging by the looks of it, Yabushige is maybe his goose has finally come home to cook. It seems like it seems like he had around 9 lives at the beginning of the series. I think he just recently used his 8th. I think Yabushige is getting ready to finally meet his fate. Although, what exactly will that fate be? Who knows?
yeah. I mean, what leads up to this scene? We
Yep.
just don't know what information was passed. I mean,
What
clearly,
condemns Yabushige out of
yeah,
all of the heinous acts that he has committed? And he's committed quite a few heinous acts, more than enough that would probably get him executed a few times over. I wonder what is going to be the one thing that finally trips Yabushige up and ends up being his downfall. Will it
yeah.
be the betrayal of everybody? Will people find out that he led the door open, or will it be something as simple as him not helping Blackthorne in that one moment in the storeroom? Like, what is going to trip him up?
Right. And the thing is, though, I mean, even if they get the storeroom door open, which they have, he's at any point he could just go over to Ishido and say, "Okay, I did what you said." And but then again, I guess if the objective was to let the shinobi in to kidnap Mariko, so Ishido didn't get pinned for killing Mariko,
Mm.
with her being killed, I guess that does undo that. Maybe in Ishido's mind, that breaks the deal. That breaks his deal with Yabushige. Maybe he hands over Yabushige to Toranaga. Who knows?
Ooh,
Because I
maybe.
mean, last we see him, they're all cozy up in Osaka Castle. So, and here he is out in the forest somewhere, meeting his fate, whatever that fate may be. So he has to get from there to here in some way. So
Yeah, we got to get from A to B somehow, and there has to be something that ends up tripping him out. Some kind of outside party. And what exactly will Omi's role be in all of this? And we see in one of the next scenes, we see Omi on his knees as well. It looks like almost in front of Toranaga, maybe even. So, what exactly will Omi's role be in all this? Will Omi have a hand in tripping up Yabushige, or will Omi be pleading for his uncle's life after Yabushige gets tripped up? I wonder.
yeah.
Not sure. Damn, Yabu. In high school, you was the man. Yabu, what the fuck happened to you? Damn, homie. In high school, you were the man, homie. And Scarlett is very much sad that Mariko is out of the game. She was one of my favorites. Me too, as well. Like, I was a huge fan of Mariko's character. She was a great character. Great performance by Anna Sawai. Just phenomenal acting. And again, I feel like we can say that for just about every character on this series. The acting has been so phenomenal. But Anna Sawai, of course, Mariko's character, has been one of the core main three characters in the series. When you think of Shogun, you think of the three main leads, most likely Blackthorne, Toranaga, and Mariko. So yeah, she's been a pillar of this show's success up until this point, and it was sad to see her go. Although I do think her ending is going to be very impactful on this final episode. Blackthorne needs Jesus, but not the Portuguese kind, says Jay-Z. Okay, absolutely. Mariko's death is his downfall, says Wolfspear. And yeah, let us know in the chat as well. We would love to get all of your opinions as usual. What do you think is going to be the one thing that finally trips Yabushige up? What exactly is going to get Yabushige caught? Do you think it will be the death of Mariko coming around to haunt him, or will it be one of his other skullduggery acts? Yeah, Mariko's death is definitely probably one of the main reasons, I could think of to get him into this position. Mariko ended a tyrant as well as her father, says Jen Hack. Interesting. Yeah, Mariko is definitely playing a big hand in ending a tyrant in Ashido, if nothing else. So, good point. Ashido would scapegoat Yabushige. He failed his objective. Indeed. How would Yabu rate Mariko's death, says Seamus Harper. Now, that's an interesting question as well. Seeing how Mariko chose to go out and taking fate into her own hands and deciding that that was the moment she was going to go, I get the feeling someone like Yabushige might respect that, considering he almost met a similar end earlier in the season when he almost killed himself on that cliff, taking
Right.
fate into his own hands, as it were. So I have to imagine Yabushige would rate Mariko's death pretty high.
Yeah. Taking it on your own terms. That's how he would have done it, and she did it in the same way. It has to be definitely better than boiling. Definitely better than eaten by dogs. Yeah, it's probably the best possible way.
Yep. And I guess now is a good time. We do have our amazing avocado rating system, and I would love to get everybody's rating in the chat. Where exactly do you guys rate Mariko's death out of 10? 1 being bad, 10 being a glorious death. Where exactly would you rate Mariko's death in the series? We got a 3 out of 10 from Jay-Z. We got a 10 avocados from Jen Hack. Awesome. Yeah, I would give Mariko's death 10 avocados as well. It was a phenomenal ending, much like for the reasons we just stated, her kind of taking fate into her hands, and even more so than that, the consequences her death is going to have, the negative impact it's going to have on Ashido's grip over the city. I would definitely give Mariko's death 10 avocados for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Rainer? Where do you rank your death?
Man, I was more critical probably of anybody than of Mariko than anybody. I'll give it 10 out of 10. And what did it for me was her reclaiming her father's name, Akechi Mariko.
Yes.
That was the cherry on top for me. So yeah, that pushed it. And what more could you do? It was the pivotal scene of this show. She got a little bit better in episode 8. I think was it 7 that I didn't like her, something. But yeah, this one here, complete redemption, everything about it, spot on, perfect, beautiful, wonderful. And it pushes the rest of the characters. I mean, just like those like desk things that have the ball where you swing it and it hits the other ones and it knocks. It pushes everything into motion. So, or like a billiard, like cracking a billiard ball.
That domino effect.
Yeah, everything's gonna be not just pushed into motion, but pushed into motion with an urgency. And again, man, 20 minutes, and we've got 77 minutes of episode after that to see what all they do, how this death ripples through the rest of the characters, and it's going to impact pretty much everybody. And let's see it all, man.
Let's see, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see how it is going to end. We are 20 minutes away from the final episode loading onto Hulu. And yeah, Yabu writing another will. I die laughing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, his final will and testament. He's got to write one final will. Let's see how you guys are rating the death of Mariko. We got a 10 from New Fun as well. We got a 9.5 from Buddha Cafe. We got a 10 out of 10 from Hand Drawn Life, a 10 out of 10 for Scarlet, a 10 avocados for Leo V as well, a 9 for Baron, 10 if she'd finished her sentence. Fair enough, my friend. We got another 10 from Arrow Chick. Nice. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 avocados from Michael Lockhart as well. We got 1,000 avocados from Dana Marie. Another 10 out of 10 from Wolf Spear. We got an 8.9 out of avocados for Doc Hayes. We got 10 more avocados from Seamus. Lord Ravener is rating it a solid 10 out of 10 avocados as well. We got a 9 because I love her, but 10 for her sacrifice. Awesome. I will accept it. I will take it. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 avocados for Brian. Oof, only 5.
Yeah,
we got
tough crowd.
Yeah, tough crowd. We got another 10 avocados, another 10 avocados, and another 10 avocados. And even Jinjin is giving it 10 avocados. Hell yes, guys. Love it. Absolutely love it. Mariko, the wife, is a completely different character from Mariko, the retainer. And that's very true, Kai. She definitely was two totally different characters. You have Mariko, the wife, and then you have Mariko, the translator, and Mariko, the retainer. Almost like three different, faces of Mariko that we see throughout this entire series. And she definitely, plays that eightfold fence very well, if nothing else. And what is up, Q? Good to see you this evening. Welcome. What was the last thing that went through Mariko's head when she died? A door? Too soon. Oh, Jen.
Boo.
Too soon, Jen. It's too soon. The wound is too fresh. Could Yabu be trying to get to Ashido here? Interesting. It could be interesting. I mean, if we note who is grabbing Ashido here, we will see a brown color. And if you guys remember the significance of the brown color, then that would indicate that these are Toranaga's men that are holding Ashido. As we know, Ashido's men are the gray samurai, and Toranaga's men are the brown samurai. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going on here. I can't wait to see what trips them up. Yeah. I cannot wait. But great ratings, guys. Always fun to rate these kinds of things. The finale has to top the last episode because Mariko is goated. It's again, it's going to be tough to top that last episode. Episode 9 was incredibly good, and Quan Solar gives it a 9.5 as well, and Q gives it a 10 as well. A lot of 10s, and rightfully so. Absolutely.
Then there's that one scene where, before we go, there's that scene where they're pulling something out of the water.
There is, yeah. We're gonna get. Oh, did I skip yours? I am sorry. I try not to skip any. I might have missed one. Let me get back and see it. Where is it? There it is. Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. I thought I said this one. I probably will butcher the username though. Differento 9. Because I love her, but 10 because of her sacrifice. And again, the sacrifice part of it was incredible. I mean, Mariko had to know in that moment what the result that her death would kind of bring about. obviously she knew when she came into the city that she instantly put Ashido in a very difficult position. Ashido can either kill Mariko and face potentially a full-blown revolt within the city of Osaka, or he can let Mariko go, which would probably prompt the other hostages to want their freedom as well. So again, Mariko really put Ashido in a very tough position as soon as she entered that city. So yeah, you really appreciate the way that she kind of took her fate into her own hands in those final moments and decided, I'm going to go out like this. And Ashido, now you're going to have to deal with the consequences. It was a very meaningful death, and her sacrifice was important, to say the least, I think.
Yeah, and that was the weirdest thing is she kept playing on, that I'm essentially a messenger for my liege lord and I have to return to him without any delay. And Ishido was like, well, he knew that if he lets her go, that the other people would want to go too. But the other ones he could have told the other people that, said, oh, well, are we hostages? I want to leave too. They're like, well, you're not fulfilling anything from your liege lord. What, you don't have, Mariko had the reason the other ones might not have had, but it looks like Ishido did fumble in that, trying to keep lumping them all into the same basket kind of. So where one went, everyone went. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was maybe a misjudgment on Ishido's part.
Maybe. Like you said, he kind of had everybody all centralized in one location where you're at the point where if one asks to get let go, they're all going to ask to be let go. So that's a very good point. He kind of might have screwed himself, kind of unwittingly sowed the design for his own demise. And Seamus Harper says, Fuji will heal us all. And again, here we see the beautiful, the awesome Fuji, who, again, I feel is definitely one of the MVP characters of the entire series. Yes, she doesn't have anywhere near as much screen time, but every scene that Fuji was in, I found myself thoroughly enjoying every single time she was on screen. Just a phenomenal presence, a very pure soul in the mix of all of this kind of skullduggery that's happening around her. You got a lot of characters that have a lot of their own motivations and will sometimes do some pretty heinous things to attain those motivations. And then you have characters like Fuji, who are just so kind-hearted and so kind of pure, almost like she's kind of too good for this time period in and of itself. She's kind of too pure for it. But loved Fuji up until this point. She's been such a phenomenal character, and it's going to be interesting to see how her story ends, if it's in any way similar to the book, or if they are going to go a different route for Fuji's end. I cannot wait to see what they do with her, but at the very least, we will get some Fuji scenes in the final episode, if this trailer is any indication. Looks like she's on the beach.
Yes, she's paid so dearly.
She's been back in Jito this whole time, right? She never left the Jito, I believe. So I imagine she's probably back in a Jito where this scene takes place.
Oh man, so she's lost her husband and her son. She just lost her grandfather, Hiramatsu, and all she wanted was to serve out her 6 months and die. Oh my gosh, such tragedy for her. The only thing that she might cling on to is Hiramatsu telling her, why don't you live? Why don't you choose to live for the sacrifice, for the victory, live for the victory that everybody around you's died to attain. And I would love to see how they resolve Fuji, how she reconciles all of her conflicted feelings, just wanting to end it all, wanting to be done with it, wanting to be with all the people that have passed before her. Or does she honor her grandpa's, request, or at least consider it, do I stay alive? Do I carry on?
She got two very different roads ahead of her, doesn't she? Like you said, on one hand, she expressed her desire to want to end it after her service to Blackthorne was complete. But then again, like you said, you have Hiramatsu kind of almost having one of his final wishes before he dies to be that, that Fuji doesn't give up, that she kind of stay alive to bask in the glory of the victory that is about to come. So yeah, she's got two very different roads ahead of her. It's going to be interesting to see which one she goes down. I
Yeah,
like it.
and she has to follow. I mean, does she follow Hiramatsu's last request the same way does Buntaro follow um, his father's last request? You know,
Hmm.
does he follow Hiramatsu's last request? You know,
Exactly.
support support Toranaga even when he's not helping himself. Whatever that sentence was when he even when he doesn't seem to be helping himself, that kind of thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
he Hiramatsu was laying on some either heavy ass guilt trips or final wishes all over the place, man. Buntaro got one, Fuji got one.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like you said, Bintaro, that's another great point as well. How exactly is Bintaro going to kind of take all of this? Bintaro just lost his father in the previous episode. He had to be his father's second. It's one thing losing your father, he had to chop his own father's head off. That kind of thing probably messes with your psyche at the very least. And then boom, here we are, a few episodes later, and now he's lost his wife, Mariko. And granted, the two had a very complicated relationship, a kind of a toxic relationship at times. But at the end of the day, you do get the sense that Buntaro does really care about Mariko. He just doesn't really express it in the best way all the time. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he takes all of this loss, and which route is he going to go down? Is this going to make him hate Blackthorne even more, or like someone brought up in the chat earlier, could Mariko's death be some kind of way that characters could potentially reconcile? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. And
Yes,
I do
for
believe
sure.
with this, what Quan Solar is saying here is, I mean, I would love to see an ending like this, although I don't think it's probably in the cards. I would not mind seeing an ending of Fuji and Blackthorne having a true romance now that Mariko is gone. And I know up until this point, Mariko and Blackthorne have been kind of entrenched in this whole, love scene infatuation. But in terms of just the chemistry, the on screen chemistry in between actors, I didn't really feel a whole lot of passion and love in between Blackthorne and Mariko. The chemistry just didn't really seem there all the time. But whenever I see Blackthorne and Fuji in a scene together, I feel like those two do have that chemistry, especially ever since the earthquake episode, where Fuji really starts to kind of step up and show her worth, and we start to see this kind of deep friendship start to develop between Blackthorne and Fuji. Part of me almost feels like Fuji and Blackthorne would be a better couple than Mariko and Blackthorne, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I think I mean, if they had fostered it, if they had kind of like worked into it, it would have been very plausible for me, probably more so than at least what we got with Mariko and Blackthorne. They didn't water that seed, so it didn't really go anywhere. Mariko or Fuji made a whole lot of headway with me as far as just because she took her job seriously. She didn't want her job at all,
She's great.
begged to not
Mhm.
have it, but was 100% when it was time to do her job, she was 100% down. And that was like, okay, yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm for you now. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
100% for, you're 100% into your job, then I'm 100% behind you while you do it. Good
Hmm.
job.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, she's grown so much as a character from when we first see her in that very first episode to now, where she's experienced so much loss after loss after loss. Her child, her husband, her grandfather, Mariko. And to see how she's kind of come out the other side of that, and it hasn't really broken her. Like Jen says, seeing Fuji pull that gun for the first time was great, and that was one of those first scenes where you really start to see Fuji take her own fate into her own hands instead of always just being a bystander to her own life. She's kind of stepping up and becoming a little bit of a badass even. And I know that was one of Scarlett's predictions very early on, when Fuji loses her husband and her child. You have that one scene where Fuji kind of looks up at the camera, and you almost see like a hardness develop in her eyes. And you can kind of tell that there was a badass just right under the surface there. And ever since then, she's really kind of come into her own. And I think Blackthorne has been a big part of that. When she was first paired with Blackthorne, she was very much against it. And slowly but surely, I feel like Blackthorne kind of helped her heal just as much as anyone. Where now we see the character that Fuji is. She's awesome. She's had one of the most complete arcs in the entire series. especially given her, lack of screen time compared to some of the other characters. So, yeah, she had some great scenes. Her, man, she gave her father's swords to Blackthorne. She's a god dang keeper. She is. She's a keeper. She's definitely a keeper for sure. And it seems like everybody is big Fuji fans in the chat as well. Fuji is the prize. Hell yes. A great prize indeed. Hand Drawn Life says, fun fact, Fuji means wisteria. The costume designer made all of Fuji's kimonos have wisteria flowers on the design. Oh, I did not know that. I did not know that myself.
That is a
Yeah,
good
you
one.
get a seppuku, and you get a seppuku, and you get a seppuku. I'm throwing them out like Oprah.
Oh no. Yeah, look under your seat. There's a wakizashi. Yeah.
There's one waiting for you under your seat, guys. Emmy predictions: Anna, Best Actress in a Limited Series, Best Limited Series, Best Adaptation Limited Series, Best Supporting Actor for Yabu. I second every single one of those. And of course, Best Leading Actor for Hideyoki Sanada as Toranaga. He has got to be Best Leading Actor. He's just absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Hiromatsu essentially commanded the same thing to Buntaro and Fuji. Pretty much, that's a good point, Kai. That last scene between Buntaro and Hiromatsu, where Buntaro wanted to follow his father into death, where Hiromatsu was like, no, you're actually going to experience what it means to be rejected, what it means to have no said to you for a change. And he said, no, you got to live. You need to live. Don't give up on our Lord, even if it appears that he gave up on himself. So yeah, it was a similar parting message that Hiromatsu gave to both Buntaro and to Fuji, that no matter how bad things look, don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. And it's a good, it's a good last message to give your loved ones as well. Don't give up on my account. Stay and fight. I like it. I like it. There has to be some poetic justice for Fuji, says Vincent. I certainly hope so. Certainly hope so. Like I said, I know how her ending ends in the book, so it's going to be interesting to see if she gets a book ending or if the show goes in a little bit of a different direction for her character. I'm kind of 50-50 at this point. I could see it going either way, but I know which way I hope it goes. Knock, knock. Who's there? Fuji. Come on in, babe. Hell yes, says Jen Hack. Can I say some lore about Buntaro since it's past the story now and we are at the finale? Absolutely. Yeah, if you want to drop some lore on Buntaro, absolutely. Drop it in the chat. Fuji and John, says Q. Yeah, for some reason, I feel like Fuji and Blackthorne just have a little bit more chemistry between the two of them than Blackthorne and Mariko had. Again, I'm probably in the minority there. Totally understand that. Something about the scenes between Blackthorne and Fuji, they just had that chemistry, that spark in between two actors that you look for when pairing two actors in a romantic role. But that's just my opinion. Like I said, I'm probably in the minority there. Good they didn't show. Good they didn't show with Twilight style romance, says Leo V. Absolutely, yeah. You don't want to see the Twilight style romance in a show like this. This is a much more sophisticated tone, I would say. I have half a bottle of unfiltered sake left, says Hand Drawn Life. Well, you enjoy that sake, my friend. Enjoy it. A man may love the Marikos of the world, but a man should also marry a Fuji, says Baron. That's a very good proverb right there. That's words to live by. Words to live by. Although I don't think you could go bad with either a Mariko or a Fuji. I don't think you could go bad with either of those choices. They're both phenomenal for sure. Michael Lockhart also saw more chemistry between Blackthorne and Fuji. Yeah, I kind of did as well. Just between the actors and the actress, it just seemed like they had that spark, that chemistry that you look for when you're casting two roles that are going to be romantically involved. Just seems like Mariko and Blackthorne didn't have it as much. Not that they didn't have it at all, just not as much as Fuji and Blackthorne seem to have. But again, that's just my take. Blackthorne, the passport, bro, says Q. The anticipation, anxiety, and excitement is killing me. Well, let the anxiety kill you no longer, because it is officially 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here on the East Coast, and that means episode 10 of Shogun is loading up on Hulu as we speak. Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching the final episode of Shogun. And again, it's been such a freaking wild ride. I have really enjoyed covering the show. Not only have I really enjoyed watching the show, but I've enjoyed covering the show even more, just for the simple fact that we get to come and hang out with all of you awesome people in the chat every week, twice a week, and dive into all things Shogun. Again, as much as I'm loving, enjoying watching the show, discussing it here with each and every one of you has been just as, if not more, fun than actually watching the show. So I cannot thank each and every one of you enough from the bottom of my heart for taking some time out of your, what I'm sure is a very busy day, especially Monday. I know how tough Monday is. It's the beginning of the week. Everyone's just going back to work. Trust me, I know how tough it is. I run a small construction company, and Monday is always the frickin' worst. So I really appreciate everybody taking their time to come and hang out with us for a little bit and talk some Shogun while we wait for these new episodes to drop. These pre-shows have been the highlight of my week up until this point. And I want to thank you as well, my co-host, my partner in crime, Lord Ravener, for joining me on this journey.
Man, it has been a delight the entire time. I thank you for the opportunity to do it, to talk to all these people. And we've got, maybe a dozen, maybe 20 something people participating in the chat. That means tons of other people just listening in, maybe listening on the replay, all that stuff. Thank all of you guys for hanging with us. It has been so cool hearing your theories, me sharing my theories, and then having them challenged by you, finding out, hey, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm completely off. I love that interaction. I love it with you guys, and Jeremy, keeping this thing going, keeping the show rolling, week after week. It's been an honor and a privilege, truly, to talk to everybody in the chat, to hang with you guys. I don't know what more to say. Profound gratitude, absolutely. And I am kind of sad.
I know I am. Part of me is definitely kind of sad that it is ending, but I am kind of also looking forward to diving into the 80s miniseries of Shogun as well. So if you guys are looking forward to that as well, come back and hang out with us, and we will dive into the 80s version of Shogun. We can compare and contrast the two versions, see which one did what certain things better. And I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I haven't seen the entire 80s miniseries at all. I've only seen bits and pieces of it. So I'm looking forward to diving into that afterwards. But again, I 100% echo every sentiment that Ravener just said. These streams have been so fun diving into all of this stuff. And big shout out to everybody who's been joining us in the chat as well. And it's so cool to see that where you guys have been joining in from. We have had people from all over the globe, it seems, in here every week, hanging out with little old us. We're just fans like the rest of you guys. We're nobody special by any means. So it's so cool to see where everybody was tuning in from. We got people tuning in from Japan, which is so awesome. Hello from Japan. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I believe I saw another one where someone was tuning in from Germany, I believe.
Yep.
Yes, 6 a.m. in Germany, always avoiding the recap. So, well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. All the way from Germany. You are most welcome here. All of you guys are most welcome here. And it's always so cool to see where everybody is tuning in from. You guys really are the best. It's so, so fun, and has been our absolute honor to dive into this show with everybody. And it's not quite over yet, although this is the final episode. Again, we will be live tomorrow night to do an encore live watch party right here on the channel. And I'm sure we will probably do our Wednesday live stream as well, as we dive deep into the final episode of Shogun and break it down live with hopefully each and every one of you guys as well. But again, can't thank each and every one of you enough. I won't keep you guys here any later. I'm sure a lot of you are dying to get out there and to dive into the final episode of Shogun, so I will not delay any further. But again, huge thank you to each and every one of you. Big thank you to Ravener and to Scarlett and Dana, by our other awesome co-hosts that join us every week. Without all of you, without everybody participating, this thing would not be possible. We do these shows because we want to talk to you guys in the chat. We want to know what you guys have to say, what you guys think. And we really look forward to diving into this thing again tomorrow night. Again, we will be live for our live encore watch party. So come and hang out tomorrow night live right here on the channel, and we will dive into all things the Shogun finale. And hell yeah, thanks guys. Peace and love from Brazil. And let's go watch this epic series. Hell yes, my friend. And welcome, greetings all the way from Brazil. And again, you guys are an absolute joy to hang out with. I really appreciate everybody taking the time to spend a little bit of time with us as we wait for the final episode of Shogun that is finally here. So yes, without further ado, everybody, get out there, watch the final episode of Shogun, then come right back here tomorrow night and hang out with us for the live encore watch party, and we will talk all about the final episode. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will see all of you on the next one. Have a good evening.
Some are born under the banner of greatness. Others must claim it. War was a way of life. Death before dishonor. Chaos has reigned since the fall of the last shogun. The country enters a period of peace under a new leader, the Taiko. But this moment of unity is short-lived. A Christian faith war is bleeding onto the shores as Catholics and Protestants carve up the Western world into religious battlegrounds. But the will to rule will be forged in the blades of the samurai's katana, as new and ancient bloodlines struggle for supremacy. Now, 3 fates will be forged in one purpose: to fight for the future of a vast nation as history collides with the dawn of a new era.
Death is in our air. In sea, in earth. It can come for us at any moment. To show your true heart is to risk your life. Enemies are everywhere and friends nowhere. Life and death are the same. Both can have value and purpose. Remember, we live and we die. We control nothing beyond that.
Yabushige-sama, help me. Yabushige-sama! For the love of God, get over here and help me push this against the damn door!
Let it come.
For God's sake, help me push this against the door!
私はケチマリコ。
Mariko-sama, get away from the door.
こたびの石堂様の卑劣な襲撃に物申します。
Mariko 殿もこちらへ。
自らの命を。
Mariko-sama!
Ishido-sama has mobilized to war. Toranaga will be dead in weeks.
Next Tuesday. Don't you understand? I came to your shores to use you! The gripping finale event. 流血は愛とどのたのじゃ。出陣やむなし。FX's Shogun